welcome, audience, to a long-awaited All About Vets. I know I and my partner Leroy, Chief Leroy Davis, we've been really busy in the community and one thing and another, but we back. So here's a teaser. I have someone on the program, Leroy and I do, that we have never had. You're going to give a lot of good information. We have never had him on the program. And so we're going to see you on the other end of, guess what? The next commercial. See you then. And we are back again, like I told you. Now, we all know that there's Leroy, my partner Leroy Davis. He's on the other side of the river, Phoenix City. I'm on Columbus. We pass the baton, we hold hands, because it's a dynamic tri-community, Columbus, Phoenix City, and Fort Bend. And you will see sitting to my right here, this gentleman. I'm going to ask him, everybody knows him, to look into the camera right here and tell everybody, they know him, who he is, but his position. His position is about this long to say, so I'm going to let him say it. Mr. Ed DuBose.
Thank you, Councilman Barnes. I am Edward DuBose. I am the NAACP National Chair of the Armed Services and Veterans Affairs Committee, also a member of the NAACP National Board of Directors, now in my 15th year. Thank you so much for having me on this show.
All right, and Ed contacted me, and this is not the normal time to have it, but for him, we will arrange, and I tagged my partner Leroy, and Leroy said he can make it. But Leroy, with you, everybody knows you, but you let everybody just take a minute. Everybody knows Leroy, Chief Leroy Davis, what you've been doing and whatever. We can get started on Ed's topic.
Well, I'm Leroy Davis. I have the Veterans View Show that really covers the Chattahoochee Valley, not just Phoenix City. And we go anywhere we need to talk about veterans. But also, I run the Veterans Treatment Court Program in Russell County, in the 26th Judicial. But Columbus has a Veterans Treatment Court as well. So veterans, when you need help, just give us a call. We'll be there for you.
That's the bottom line. And so Ed, now that we squeeze you in, because you got some really good information, Leroy and I are going to do just like LeBron does when he makes those fantastic passes, you understand? You got the ball.
Thank you so much for both of you supporting and allowing me to be on the show. I just want to talk to everyone out there, but especially the veterans, You all know that this is the 75th anniversary of the signing of Executive Order 9981 by President Truman, which started the process of integrating the military. We had been here before, we just were colored on one side and white on the other. And so this started that process of equal opportunity and eventually followed with women. And so I wanted to be on this show to talk to you, one, about some of the things that we're doing, Jerry, on the as a result of Executive Order 9981. July 26th, if you don't have anything planned, come out on that day and just say, thank you, Lord, for Executive Order 9981. I don't know if this is the time, Jerry, to just kind of talk about some of the reasons we want to celebrate and talk about it.
Well, you can, and you can call me Pops. You've been knowing me long enough.
Pops Barnes,
okay,
Councilman Barnes.
So there we go.
In fact, we marched together in his very first election, and he has really did, a wonderful job all of these years later.
Appreciate it.
But let me ask you something, Mr. DuBose. I'm gonna be just like they was in Congress when the guy said, "I'm doing this for colored people." You just used the word colored. Now we don't throw that word out the door.
That's out.
We're doing it for black people now.
That's right.
So, if you would, and if Pop don't mind, I want to ask you this first question.
Go ahead.
Tell us exactly what happened on July 26th in 1948.
So, again, July the 26th, 1948 was a single day. The issue is what happened leading up to that day. There was a lot of advocacy work. And believe it or not, it was not just black veterans. It was not just black people. One thing I like about change is people of all colors come together when they know that something is wrong. And so people of all colors came together to correct this wrong. And the July the 20th, 1948 was the actual day of the signing of Executive Order 9981. Of course, the NAACP was at the table when this happened, but this was just a start. Now, keep in mind, when something first happens, there's still resistance. So that was resistance, but this was the start of something that people acknowledged that this was wrong.
Right.
This is a moral wrong. And so we started to correct it, right? We all wear the uniform, and when we get shot or we bleed red.
Exactly.
And so this was the right thing to do, that we could stand in the foxhole side by side, black and white together, fighting for this great United States of America.
Exactly. And you want to know something? I'm glad that you brought up the point that it was all Americans, all ethnics, all ethnicities, because it was a moral wrong.
Absolutely.
And now, one thing that I noticed when I went through this here, I would like for you to highlight all these various dates and the statistics, because the only pure science is mathematics.
Yes.
And so statistics don't lie.
Yes, they
And
don't.
so I'm going to throw the ball back in your court, and Leroy, you know how the program runs. You jump in whenever you want to jump in.
And so one of the things we wanted to do in this 75th year, we wanted to celebrate, but we also wanted to bring people to the reality of there's still a lot of work to do. As an example, Councilman Potbon, we looked at in the year 1984, for example, there were 2% of Air Force pilots that were black in 1984. Well, guess what? 40 years later, there's still 2%. And so that means that even though we have integrated the armed forces, we still have work to do with making everything fair for the people. Also, we talked about in fiscal year 2023, 84.8% of black, all veterans who are applying for benefits, and the ones who are denied the most, we looked at the data, and the data showed that 30% of disability claims filed by black veterans were denied. That means somebody looking at this show right now filed a disability claim and it was denied. And that's compared to 24.2% of all others. So we celebrate 75 years of the armed forces being integrated, but we recognize that in 75 years later, the year 2023, that we still have work to do.
Right.
And Mr. DuBose, that's one of the things that a lot of veterans speak to me about, and that's about why on all of these applications, whether you're filing for benefits, you're joining the military, or you're filling out an application for a loan, why does it matter what your race is? Why the reason why those 80-something%, 84% and the people were denied is because they can look on it and see what color they are.
Yeah.
If that wasn't on there, those veterans probably would not have been denied their benefit if we didn't have that particular thing on there. Are you black? Are you white? Are you Hispanic? Or other? So one of the things I think that once, as we do this and with the NAACP help, is that we start moving some of these barriers that's on the application that asks for your color of your ethnic. Why? I mean, we understand, are you a woman or a man? But what does it matter what your race is?
And that is somewhat extraneous when you think about something like that. Why would that even be a legitimate question?
And people, when we bring up the topic of 75 for 75, and we bring up some of the challenges that we face, I used to hold meetings, and in those meetings I would say, my meetings are solution focused. You never bring a problem to the table if you can't bring a solution.
Right.
Exactly.
And so one of the solutions that we've come up with, for the first time in history at the NAACP 114th National Convention, we will be signing a historic memorandum of agreement with the Department Veterans Affairs, minority veterans. What that means is we're no longer on the outside. We're sitting at the table. History is one thing, but change is another.
Right.
And so our goal is to sit at the table and make change. Let's discuss change. Let's dialogue together. Isaiah says, let's reason together.
Right.
And so our goal right now is we want to come on the inside, sit at the table, put the data on the table, and talk together about solutions.
Right. Now, Ed, talk a little bit about, you and I had a conversation about even homeless vets. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, the data, and thank you for asking that question. The data shows that in, for example, fiscal year, as of this day, the data, 33.1% of veterans experienced homelessness. 33% were black. 12.3% of all others experienced. So what it's saying is we have a great divide even in homelessness.
The disparity.
Yeah,
And
great
you
disparity.
pitched on that in our previous conversation. There should be no one as a homeless vet.
Nowhere. No soldier, whether you're black or white, you've served this country. There's no need for you to be sitting on the side of the road, sleeping on the side of the road. You've given too much of a sacrifice to be sleeping under a pillar, under a bridge. So it shouldn't happen to nobody. We definitely need to address this as a whole, but also address this great divide.
So let's come up, and I like what you said, that anyone comes to the table comes up with a solution.
Right.
So involvement, is that what do we need?
So we want you to be just involved. I'm going to give you a website address just to be involved. Maybe you want more information after this show. The web address I want you to be able to email is I'm sorry, let me get it right because you're writing it, I'm calling it out. PEDME@naacpnet.org. I give it to you one more time. PEDME@naacpnet.org. Email us for more information on all of the fantastic events that will be happening from July the 28th, July 26th, all the way through December the 31st, celebrating 75 for 75.
And this is just getting involved, getting people involved. And I'm so glad that you are taking the time out of your busy schedule to do that. I didn't mean to cut you off, Leroy.
Well, let me ask you something, Ed, because we have an old saying that to whom much is given, much is expected, correct? And we have a lot of saying, but I want you to put some emphasis on is that the NAACP is not just a black organization. It's for every race out there to be
Exactly.
a member.
Exactly.
If you look up the history, because I was the first senior vice president for Russell County chapter, and now I'm on the advisory committee or the executive committee. But our history tells us who helped found the NAACP.
That's exactly right.
I believe it was in 1919 in New York State. Just touch that for a minute so that they can understand that this is not just a black organization, it's a everybody's organization.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. This organization was founded in 1909, and at the table collectively were blacks and whites. Believe it or not,
Right.
it was people of common mind at that time, at the height of lynching, that came together and said, this is wrong. And so it's never been a black organization. In fact, at the table of the national board right now, we're very diverse in our units across the country. That was a great question. We're very diverse across the country in our activities. And so one of the things we want you to do is not run away from us regardless of your color, because we're at the table with everybody sitting at the table. We simply say and point out when things are wrong, morally wrong, that we all come together and try to address it. Like the segregation of the military. It was morally wrong for people to be fighting on the battlefield segregated from each other. It was the right thing to do to sign Executive Order 9981 and integrate this great armed forces so that we can all be brothers and sisters in the military.
And I always have an expression that, we can look at what's going on even with other countries and the Ukrainian. This country will never, ever, ever be defeated because there's so many of us ethnicities that are involved. It's just like twine of different textures become so strong, it cannot be broken.
Yes.
And so I'm really glad that you brought that subject up, Leroy. I'm really glad that you took the time.
Thank
now,
you.
Ed, what I would like for you to do is to go over the address again so that they will know, and that you can tell everybody, listen, statistics don't lie. This is something that individuals need to be on, and they need to be really actively involved in spreading the word. And so give them that contact information again, because I would like for them to really be able to contact you.
And you know what I'm going to do? I like doing this. I'm going to give them the address, and I'm going to test y'all with military type language as I do it. So here's the email address that I want you to email us at. P as in Papa, E as in Echo, D as in Delta, M as in Mike, E as in Echo, at, N as in November, A as in Alpha, A as in Alpha again, C as in Charlie, P as in Papa, N as in November, E as in Echo, T as in Tango, dot, O as in Oscar, R as in Romeo, G as in Gulf. That's the email address that you'll call. I said to myself, it's been almost 30 years. I hope I didn't mess it up.
You did it right.
I got it right. So I got two veterans on each side that can
You
correct
did it right.
me.
You did
That
it right.
is the email address where we can give you more information on the celebration that's taking place this year, the information on NAACP. Just remember to let them know that you heard it on this show.
All about vets.
All about vets.
So I want to firstly thank you, Ed, for contacting Leroy and contacting me to come to have this program. And I always like to wrap things up. You're going to be the last one to wrap up because I know you have some upcoming dates that you might want everybody to know about. Leroy, talk about some of the things that you are doing real quick so that you are involved in.
Well, Papa.
And I'm hoping, Leroy, and I will put this pitch out, I am hoping that we are able to have a veterans banquet that Chief Leroy Davis started. We're going to be having a Veterans Day parade, but it's always good for the veterans to get together and people that love veterans to sit down and break bread the day before the Veterans Day parade. So I know that you have aspirations to try to do it. I know the good people at St. Luke, they've always accommodated
Yes.
you, always respected veterans and helped veterans. Talk about that. I would love for it. It's going to be a Veterans Day parade now. And I got some other surprises down the line for this whole community that I'm going to share with Leroy, with Ed, and with Mike King, the good producer of this program. But it's going to be a happy surprise for the community. I'm trying to work things out. But I like for Leroy, he's so busy in the community. He's my tag team partner. I run, pass the baton to Leroy.
It's
Leroy,
hard to keep
Leroy
up with
gets off and he takes off on his thing across the river. So Leroy, talk about it.
Well, we haven't had a veterans banquet since the pandemic.
Right.
And we are hoping that we can have one this year.
Right.
Now, if you're out there in the sound of my voice and you're listening and you want to support us, just give me a call at 706-718-4440. It's always good for veterans to get together and their families. And for our civilian counterpart who love veterans and want to support us, give us a call also. And we have something that you can do to support us. And that's about what I have going on right now, other than I want veterans to understand that Muskogee County, Georgia, and Russell County, Alabama, two combined cities that sits on the river next to each other, have a veterans treatment court. So if you are a veteran and something happened and you're a combat veteran, give me a call at 4440. I will refer you over to Columbus Veterans Treatment Court Mentor Coordinator so that you can put in an application if something happened to be transferred into Veterans Treatment Court. So please, we're doing all of this stuff for you. And it's all over the country now, Veterans Treatment Court. So if it's there for you, utilize it.
And Ed, do you have any thoughts that you want to wrap up before we wrap the show up?
Yeah, I do, and thank you again, Councilman Bond. Thank you, Chief Davis, for both of you allowing this space for the organization. I would be remiss if I got off the air and I didn't lift up the name of our local president, President Wayne Hill, as the NAACP Columbus Branch President, where you will be familiar with them on Facebook. You can just look up Columbus Branch NAACP, and hopefully we'll have even information on that page. So thank you guys for having me. Our national convention will take place starting on July the 28th, moving forward through August the 2nd, and most of it, Councilman Bond, is going to be all about vets.
That's what I'm talking about.
Most of
That's
it's gonna be
what
all about
that's
vets.
what I'm talking about.
And let me share this with you, because we're side-by-side cities, Phoenix City and Columbus. Our local president is Chelsea Arrington of Unit 5050 in Phoenix City, Russell County chapter.
Awesome.
There we go. We're giving everybody shout outs.
Awesome. So I definitely wanted to shout out our local president. I started, Councilman Bond, as president of the Columbus branch and served 7 years, took over the state and served for 11 years. So just like the military, I went through the ranks, but not just going through the ranks because of trying to make history, going through the ranks to make change. And so I thank you so much for having me on this show. I thank the producers, the entire staff that came together to make this possible for us.
Mr. Mike King is the one I always tell everybody. Everybody look at Pop Barnes, you got your focus on health, you got all about it, all emanated from Mr. Mike King that said to me one day, you know, Pops, you're a nurse. Why don't you do a nursing program? Mike King, guess what? Right after that, with 2 or 3 or 4 years, he said, Pops, you want to know something? You're a veteran. Why don't you do it? Mike King is the genesis of everything. And talking about all about vets, our next program, we're going to have something that was started by former Councilman Wayne Anthony, the House of Heroes. So Miss Susan Wood, who's the executive director of House of Heroes, will be here, and someone that everybody knows. Everybody loves CPD. Everybody knows Teddy Jackson. Teddy Jackson is going to be here as one of the guests on All About Vets. So when you tune in, you'll see Leroy and I, and you'll see Miss Susan Wood, who's the executive director, and you will also see Teddy Jackson. And as I always say on all of my programs when I leave out, is this here. It's very important information to remember. Everybody is somebody's loved one, and that's each of you. And so until next time, please be good and kind to yourself because God loves you. Bye-bye now.